I'm here at HPE Discover in Madrid with Steve Fearn, and over across the way from us is a manufacturing demo that you guys have here. Now, when I think of HPE, I don't necessarily think of manufacturing, but you guys are actually doing some very interesting stuff with how you're approaching manufacturing. Can you talk about that?
Sure, yeah. What we're trying to do is assist manufacturers with the changes that they're seeing coming through from their customers. So we're seeing a lot of customization at the point of manufacture now. So rather than making maybe 1,000 products that are exactly the same, manufacturers are being forced to move into a situation where they're running smaller and smaller batches. It was in history that you couldn't really, as the customer, define what you'd receive as a product. Now you can. Now, that's great, but it means the manufacturers have got to be much more agile in their environment to provide that requirement and really deliver things that are absolutely to your specification as they're made.
So give me a couple of examples of how that agility needs to happen.
Agility in manufacture can manifest itself in a number of ways. For discrete manufacturers, so people that make things, you'll see much tighter product refresh cycle times. So, you know, we all like the new phones, we all like our improved TVs, and therefore the manufacturers are going through a refresh cycle in their products really much more quickly than they have in the past. That means they're changing their production processes, they've got to retrain their staff, they've got to update their devices. And we're providing the capability to really analyze that production processes that exist today and then predict how these changes that they're planning to make are going to affect that process.
So how do you go about that? How does HPE fit into that augmenting the manufacturing process?
Sure, and as you rightly said, we're not known for this particular solution set. So we have a long history of manufacturing the best enterprise-grade hardware in the world, and we're taking our experience in manufacturing. We're using that enterprise-grade hardware, and we're developing partner networks with specialist companies that can deliver software and solutions to really allow the customer to cherry-pick the best of breed and deliver on their shop floor this effectively heterogeneous environment comprising of those best products.
So give me like one example. I know before we started the interview, you talked a little bit about like using video cameras to see if the right parts were put in a server. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's a great example, actually. So effectively, a quality assurance person's life has become very difficult over the last few years. So where they used to be looking at a very similar product coming down the production line and checking it was properly configured and as it was supposed to be, now they're seeing a huge variance coming through. You know, you may get 20 servers coming off a production line. They may all be different memory, different CPU configurations, hard disks, cooling requirements. So what we've done is we've integrated video analytics into the production process, so the bill of materials, the components that should be installed are passed to a video processing solution. It uses a camera to take a look at the server, and it can basically detect whether or not the components are the ones that should be within that server.
And so I'm assuming that the whole idea behind that is not only to avoid mistakes, but also to create cost savings. So because on one hand, it can't be cheap to run a server that's doing video analytics, but on the other hand, mistakes are also expensive. So how do you figure out where the sweet spot between those two things is?
Again, very good question. Effectively, manufacturers really struggle with consistency. So if you're a supplier and you are inconsistent, your customers are going to be unhappy. So the cost of mistakes are not just the economic cost of putting the thing right, it's the whole knock-on effect through the supply chain. So effectively the manufacturers have very sophisticated models to calculate efficiencies and calculate the cost of issues in their supply chains. We use that data and we can compare that with the cost of delivering the service to decide whether or not actually this particular solution is a good ROI. If not, we can work with them to develop other solutions that might get them pretty much the same place in a different way.
And so then does HPE build out these architectures and things in collaboration with software providers and then also provide like a support element of actually implementation, or is it more of a reference architecture?
Yes, and yes.
All of the above?
So we have a large partner network for solutions, so effectively the software. We as an organization have a consultancy within us called PointNext. PointNext have the experience and the expertise to identify the best partner for the solution or the request provided by the the customer, and then we can come along, we can provide a turnkey solution, so we can effectively build everything for them, the infrastructure, the software, the operational support, or if the customer prefers, we can basically help them implement on their own. So it's a mixed bag. It really does depend, Jake, on where the customer's at, where they feel they want to commit their resources, and how they want to have that service delivered to them.
Very cool. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thanks, man.